Okay, so like Ross said, my name is Ben Gaddis. I'm the president at T3. We're about 220 people based in Austin, Texas. We've got offices all across the United States and get to work with some pretty amazing Fortune 500 clients. So typically we're going to be digital agency of record for these folks. And in the most recent Forrester Innovation Wave, they just named us the #4 innovation agency globally. And the reason why we show this slide is because we're the only independent agency on the list, and we're the smallest by about 3,500 people. So go innovation, go small agencies. We love that slide. But the thing that we help our clients with the most these days is really helping them define their AI strategies. And one of the challenges with defining AI strategy is you have to know the definition of AI. And I think that the marketing industry today actually doesn't really understand what AI can do. It is so overhyped and unfortunately very underutilized. And I think the reason because of that is there's one very specific person who has caused all of these problems, and it's this guy. Not the guy on the left, that's Ken Jennings, the greatest Jeopardy player in the history of the world. It's actually the person in the middle, and that's IBM Watson. So IBM Watson went on Jeopardy, won, and now our marketing clients have been calling us saying, well, let's just point Watson at all of our data, and he'll tell us exactly what to do. That's AI, right? It's actually very, very different than where we are today. That's all the way over here on the far right, where we're talking about super intelligence. Unfortunately, what that means is that you have to point AI at a very specific problem for it to learn over time, get better, and get to the point where it actually can do all the things that AI has been promised. So that's where we are today. The problem is our job as marketers isn't to sprinkle a little AI on everything we do. It's to find the very specific problem that we have and point AI at that problem. And if we do that, we're going to be much more successful. So at T3, we found really 3 specific problems that we see AI solving in a unique way, and I thought I'd share a couple of those with you today. So 3 things that we're doing. The first is predictive commerce. Everybody's talking about e-com. We've been working with Staples over the past 3 years in partnership with IBM and create some pretty cool experiences. The first is we created the Staples Easy system. Using IBM Watson, we now of reordering office supplies in a much easier way. So you can just use natural language processing through our smart speaker. You can say, I need coffee for the break room, I need black pens, and I need that paper I ordered last week. That's a really challenging thing for most systems to understand when you talk that way, but IBM does all the natural language processing, the intent extraction, and adds that order to the cart. You can also take a picture of an item, you can order through Slack, you can order through a number of different ways. But where Watson gets really interesting is it can start to understand the patterns behind those orders and start to become predictive. So if I order something today, do I often 3 days later order a similar item or something that's related to that item? And so what we're trying to do is get out ahead of that so that we understand when people order, and our goal is that they never have to order, that we know what they're looking for before they ever do. And so we're actually combining some technologies like pressure-sensitive mats. So this is a set of mats that we created that you can actually put under things like stacks of paper, and it can determine exactly how much paper weighs as you pull those off. It will determine that. It gets down to one piece of paper or one ream of paper. It automatically generates that order. So the combination of that technology and predictive intelligence, we've seen some pretty amazing stats. So people have higher order frequency. They're much more likely to increase the order size, and they actually feel like Staples is providing them better service. So that's predictive commerce. The second opportunity area that we see is around contextual experiences. So there's more data out there than there ever has been, but tying all that together in a set of systems and one seamless experience for a customer is really challenging. And I think the best example is some work we've done for Allstate. So if you go get an insurance quote for your home today, it's almost impossible. You fill out 27 form fields. You have to answer a lot of information that you don't know. We've taken 8 different APIs, pulled a lot of publicly available data, and put it into one experience where you don't have to answer any questions. We just automatically detect your address. You hit go. We use Google Street View. We fly down to the street view of your home. We show you the front door of your house. We then show you crime data. We show you weather data. Name is actually going to be something like flooding. We layer on things like your energy usage. We tie all that together, and then we show you how to better protect your home, determine the content that is going to be most relevant to your specific home, and we show you that content. So not only can you better protect your home, but you can actually go through and hopefully reduce your insurance premium. People who go through this process are 350% more likely to get a quote from Allstate, which is pretty cool. And then the last opportunity area is there's a lot of information out there on social today, and actually Congress finally figured that out and held some hearings around it. And the problem with most social data today, though, is that it's not actionable. So all these insights happen, and then at some point later, we do something with them. We actually think that there's a much bigger opportunity through things like sentiment analysis, using AI to determine what's being said and make that actionable in real time. And I think the best example is we saw that there was one particular person last year who was using Twitter in a really unique way. It was the President of the United States. He would talk negatively about a company on Twitter, and the stock price would go down. And then and nobody knew what to do with that. So we actually built a bot called the Trump and Dump bot. And what it does is it follows President Trump on Twitter. A lot of press around it, but what I think this shows is that you can take a set of technologies like sentiment analysis, connect that to all of the social data out there, and marketers should be able to take what people are saying in real time and take immediate action on that actually drives to some sort of financial outcome. So just a couple of areas, our thought is that the main goal for today and for marketers is you have to figure out how to point AI at the right problem, and if you do that, you can get a lot more value out of the technology. So thanks.
Thanks, Ben. So Chris Neff is up next. He is Senior Director of Innovation at the Community. And my mic is working now that I've finished saying that. But just go ahead and introduce yourself again if you don't mind, and then take us through your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris. Thank you for having me here. I'm assuming, Ross, it's just green goes forward, red goes back, yeah? All right. So I'm going to tell you first a little bit about who we are as an agency, make that kind of brief, and then get into one of the main things we've been doing with AI. I find that, obviously, I think it's really good that we're here. It's good that we're able to do sessions like this because we have all of these subjects floating around with artificial intelligence, machine learning. You hear a lot of words every day, but the practical application of those words, right? The practical application of this technology, and specifically how it relates back to marketing versus just how it moves a business forward. I think that's where some of us get lost, and that's where I think we need to connect and have more communication to help everybody kind of understand how to apply it, even with baby steps, to then do something revolutionary. So in order to first quantify kind of who we are as an agency, I'm going to start with what we're not. We're not a general market agency. I'm from the community, formerly La Comunidad, and I'm based in the Miami office. But we're not a general market agency, and we're not a multicultural agency. We don't really fit in a box, but I think what we are is the same as many of you. We're creative professionals that are marketing in a multicultural space. I think more than ever, we have a multicultural environment and diversity amongst us. It's really important that we understand the nuances there so we know how to speak to the individual, and that we don't get so caught up in trying to market to a group with using general language. I think it's all about being very specific, and we try to pride ourselves in that. We have 250 communitarians, 4 hubs. We started in Buenos Aires. The Moya brothers, who started our agency, moved to Miami, established a large base in Miami, and that's really our flagship office now. It's about 160 strong, and now since we've expanded into New York and into London. And what we love to try to do is help brands find their voice in culture, find their fit in culture, and it's really about, again, it's understanding those nuances, understanding how to be relevant within culture, and not market in a blanket way. Here are some of the brands we've worked on. Obviously, Verizon is our biggest brand, really what fuels us, so we work on a lot of that. But we also do Corona, Red Bull, Domino's, and Magic Leap are 2 of the newer clients that we're getting into and working with technology with them, which is great. So that's a little overview of who we are. We've been working with AI. I've now been at the community almost a year, and I have some interesting experience coming into this agency from experimenting in marketing with artificial intelligence. So we started doing some computer vision stuff, some natural language processing, tried to roll that forward, and what I've been practicing at the community is that it's not just about using AI for our clients, or for our brands. It's about using AI for ourselves. And I think that's actually one of the best places to start with AI. It's what do you face as a problem in your everyday lives and your business? It could be just information that you're lacking. It could be something that around the office is broken, and you're looking to fix that. That's not necessarily for a brand. It's not for a client. It doesn't involve big budget dollars. It's fixing a problem first and foremost, and that's, I think, the beauty of where we are in technology. It's what AI can do for us. Starting small, again, and growing big, and then you can really realize something great. So one of the areas that we've been focusing on is really around the smart city. Miami's trying to come forward. There's obviously a lot of progressive technology happening there with Magic Leap and with sensor technology kind of in and around Miami, but the traffic prediction systems, right, aren't really there. So this infamous cause of traffic in Miami downtown, specifically the Brickell area, we saw a problem there that we wanted to address. The Miami River drawbridges. Now, whether you're familiar with Miami, Brickell, Miami downtown, or the drawbridges, you are familiar with drawbridges. You've seen that moment when a drawbridge goes up and you're in front of it and there's nothing you can do about it. You're now stuck, and most of the time what happens is it doesn't matter if you're using Waze, Google Maps, or you're in a rideshare, Lyft or Uber, your commute's gonna go up. They didn't know about it, you didn't know about it, and now you're stuck with it. This issue happens all the time, right? Specifically in Brickell, where you're basically facing two bridges on either side, and at any given moment they can go up. There are times in place where boats are supposed to come through. That doesn't always work. And depending on the type of boat, that bridge has to go up and people have to wait. And again, if you're stuck in that, there's no way to avoid that traffic. So we said to ourselves, okay, like that's broken, right? There should be some type of a system in place. I'm surprised that there's not. Everybody that I've talked to about this is very surprised that there is not a system in place. So we decided to do something about it. What we created was the bridge forecast. I'm going to give you the building blocks of what this is. So there's a sequence of drawbridges in downtown Miami. Really, the Brickell Bridge is where it starts, and I'm going to show you where that one is in a second via a diagram. But really, traffic that goes into the Brickell Bridge then hits all of the other bridges concurrently. So there is definitely a pattern, and then even coming from the other way, whereas the Brickell Bridge is kind of that primary thing that's the cause of traffic. Here's how our forecast works. So here are the 5 bridges, Brickell Bridge being down here. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to use machine learning and specifically computer vision. And I think computer vision is important to discuss because computer vision is one of the best aspects of machine learning and AI right now. It's very on point. There are a lot of systems, as it relates to Watson, Amazon Recognition, Cloud Vision. There are systems called YOLO and Pixel Match as well. And there's a lot of things that you can explore. And the notion of computer vision, which is a computer kind of seeing images out in the world, cross-referencing that with just data that it has, whatever it's been taught to know, the ability to match those two things or interpret that and feedback information is, I think, one of the more progressive and forefront forms of artificial intelligence. And from my standpoint, I think it's a great place for us all to play, whether it's marketing or pushing our business forward. So we use Nest cameras primarily to study the bridges. And right now what we have is we have 3 Nest cameras in balconies pointed at different bridges around downtown Miami. We've been studying these bridges for about 4 months, and I'll get into a little bit of the information that we've received. But it's really that simple. It's just processing images, understanding what it looks like when a bridge is up, what it looks like when a bridge is down, so that if one bridge goes up, we can theoretically know that the other bridges might go up thereafter. How long, how often, that's all part of this system that we've been training. So TensorFlow is actually where we landed as a technology. I noted a couple of others before. We did use Pixel Match cloud vision, and we did try YOLO as well, with varying degrees of success. But with TensorFlow image recognition, we're finding our highest degree of accuracy in this process. So we really do know with a 95% accuracy or better that a bridge is up or a bridge is down. And then as we get into other forms of processing, we know that that accuracy is carrying forward. So give you an example of one of the points of data. So 99% of the time when the Second Ave bridge and the Miami Ave bridge went up, the Brickell bridge also went up, and it was 7 minutes later. So this is a reactive principle that we're looking at. So we know that these two bridges went up, 7 minutes later the Brickell bridge went up. So if I'm sitting there and the main bridge that I'm worried about is that Brickell Ave bridge, and you can tell me within a 7-minute window that bridge might go up, that's great. I can use that information to determine if I can, vary my route or if indeed I'm going to be able to make that bridge. So that's really the principle that we're living by here. The interrelationship of these 5 bridges, as it extends out, there's actually 10 bridges that are affected, which happens to be like port traffic, shipping that will come through to the airport. So we're talking about commuter traffic right now, but actually this could affect all the way into supply lines and businesses that are trying to get cargo into the ports. They can understand the traffic patterns, right? So there is a bigger play here beyond just commuter traffic. The whole notion here is to turn that into a service, to take that information and to process it into something that's tangible that we can all utilize on a regular basis, right? To affect the lives of thousands of people who live in these areas every day. So in a really simple way, these are the 3 cameras that we have up right now. The Brickell Ave bridge, which is the one to my right, this is the one that's kind of given us the trickiest point. So this was established as an internal thing that we decided to do. So these cameras that you see here, these are literally balconies of either employees or friends that have these balconies. They literally live here, and we've been studying with these cameras on their balconies for about 3 months. This is not the end goal, but this has allowed us enough to set up the service to get it going while we then work to a permitted installation, redundancies of cameras, and really a big picture plan here that can revolutionize traffic patterns in Miami moving forward. Here's our service. So it's very simple. Right now, again, it's a reactive service. We know if a bridge is up, we know if a bridge is down, and given that interrelationship, we understand how soon before another bridge goes up, right? So here we have a sense of 5 minutes. We're finding within our reactive model anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes is very possible. So we've kind of picked like a standard, 5 to 7 minutes. We display one of those. And if, again, this is something that you access right now through the phone, hands-free, it would be in the car if you're going to check your bridges, or if you're in your house before you leave, you look at it. But there are conversations about how this actually gets integrated moving forward, and we'll talk about that in a second. So that's, I think, really where we want to go here. So I've explained to you kind of a use case that's more reactive, right? I don't want it to be reactive. I want it to be predictive. So what we're now studying is we're studying actual boats. Size of boat, size of mast. Depending on a boat in the distance and where that boat's positioned and the size of that boat, we can actually determine further out. That boat's heading towards a bridge, and we'll be able to identify within 7 to 10 minutes that boat is going to cause the Brickell Bridge to go up. So now we can say, okay, in 10 minutes the Brickell Bridge goes up, which we know that in 5 minutes the South Miami Ave Bridge goes up, and then another couple minutes the Second Ave Bridge goes up. Now all of a sudden our predictive window can get to 20+ minutes. So now we're talking about really, really being predictive, and it's not just the reactionary state of things, I think, as it's currently present, right? And then ideally we take that via an API and we can inject it into rideshare systems, into a system like Waze, into a system like Google Maps. So these conversations are happening, but I think everybody wants to help stabilize the product right now, and it's like, okay, let's take this into a different direction. Let's have redundancies. Let's have more balconies, but we have to get there. So again, more cameras, more stability, and we've been in discussions with a couple of partners, but we haven't locked down that, and we think that's a strategic partnership that we need. One of our clients is Verizon, so maybe it's a smart city play with Verizon, but we also have BMW, and maybe it's more of a kind of car commuter thing. So starting internally, fixing an area of need in our city, we fully expect this to grow and flourish. And for me, it just represents a practical use of machine learning and computer vision, and something that, again, anybody could try. Set up a camera, study something, garner results from it, and use that data, which is key, in order to then define how we fix problems, whether it's in our city or in our office or for our brand moving forward. I don't know if I'm supposed to pose questions, but I did. Okay, fair enough. Thank you, guys.
Okay, all right. Chris, thanks very much. Next up, we have Doug Robinson, founder and CEO of FreshDigitalGroup.
Hello. Yeah. Well, okay. Doug Robinson, CEO. FreshDigitalGroup, I started about 7 years ago. The idea was, could we, at that time, be the next mobile agency? Could we be very digital and mobile focused and disintermediate a lot of traditional agencies? As things kind of moved on, we wanted to really be at the front of emerging technology. So we've built platforms for ESPN, NBA, Twitter. We've done media buying with Home Depot. We have lots of various clients, but now what we're really, really, really interested in is voice. Oops. So what we've done is deployed around 700 voice skills in about 20 categories. We've got, for a while there, we had about half of the Cortana store. We've taken about 200 skills and squashed that down into 2 on Google, and we have about 400 running on Alexa currently. So when I was here last year, we were all Alexa, Alexa, Alexa. Clearly these days, that's not necessarily the case. Google Home, Google Assistant have definitely made quite a few inroads in this year. We know that there'll be about a billion phones that have Google Assistant globally by the end of the year. We know that about 20% of homes have an assistant, and we also know that there's an average 2 per home, and that number is probably going to go up to 3 by the end of the year. So when you're thinking about building voice applications, we look at voice and the AI associated with voice not just as a helpful feature, but as something that is really a functional platform, right? Because the reality is when you're looking at voice, you have to really think about it as the smartphone. You have to think about it as an operating system. And so when we look at it as an operating system, how are we able to use the data to really think of new ways to engage our consumers, our audience, our customers, and house it at the center of your customer experience strategy. At the end of the day, that's really what should be going on. I mean, if you have a device that 20% of homes have, 80% of them are only listening to music or listening to the weather, there's a massive opportunity for any brand, agency, nonprofit, et cetera, to create a dialogue with this device. So we know that it's really a utility, it's not an ad vehicle, and maybe that's why brands have been a little slow to really jump on board. The reality is, what do I want to do, what do I want to know, and how can I make what I want happen immediately? How can I have a thought, and it happens? That's what voice is really working on right now. When we look at the idea of Alexa as a skill, it's because we're teaching her a skill. We're teaching her how to be smarter. We're teaching her how to learn my habits. We're teaching her to know what I want today versus what I want tomorrow. When you have a Google Action, it's more about what actions do I want to involve. And so although they're different names, they're both applications. So we think the brands are really going to be assessed as people. So, are we a funny brand? Are we a cool brand? Are we a serious brand? And so you can leverage the voice kind of vehicle to really enhance your brand and what makes the most sense there. Now, we've entered the age of assistants, but this isn't something that just happened, right? This is 10 to 20 years of AI and machine learning and all of it kind of coming together into these little pocket devices that we either have in our kitchen, in our bathroom, in our bedroom. Can I use it to go across country to a national park? Can I use it in the kitchen for a recipe? Can we buy tickets? Can we do holidays? Can we engage with kids? Can we connect to our smart home? So all of those things are really there in the age of assistance to help us manage our day, right? The reality is we almost live in a 28-hour day, but we still only have 24 hours. So if we can have a device or some technology that gives us micro moments back in that day, we're probably going to adopt it. Obviously, it's built on cutting-edge tech, right? I mean, when you think about it, no mass marketing vehicle has ever had this much technology in such a small package, not even the smartphone, right? When it first started, we didn't have payments, we didn't have machine learning, we didn't have any of this stuff. And so if you look at just a basic Google Assistant or Alexa or even the Cortana, all of that stuff is in there. And considering where we are in this cycle, that's pretty impressive. So we really like to think of, what are the key user journeys and how do we attack different verticals? So when you think about user journeys of like, how do I streamline my morning, right? Let's get back to that. How do we save more time in our day? How do I have a better commute? How do I, wind down in the evening? Am I doing yoga from my machine? Am I listening to the news? Are we reading a book with the kids? Like, what's actually happening? And then how are we matching that awareness and creating that behavioral modeling to really understand our users, our customers, et cetera? And that's what I'll do next year. Next slide.
So, Doug, while you're waiting, you mentioned that you said something to the effect of considering where we are in the cycle. Where are we in the cycle with voice?
Well, we kind of think that, what's great is that we're at a point where everyone has a device, but no one knows what to do with it. So we think that we're pretty early. So if this is like a 9-inning game, we're barely in the second inning. Mm-hmm. When we start thinking about, as it's kind of our job and been to really like teach people how to use a device or come up with ideas or things for brands or use cases that make the most sense. Mm-hmm. I think over the next 6 months, we're going to develop a lot of use cases, and we'll spend 2019 really implementing them and fine-tuning them. So I'd say we're in the second inning, which, considering I think last year we were maybe like just starting to bat, we've kind of like made a little leap. And if you think about it on the mobile cycle, like that took 10 years. Mm-hmm. We think this cycle of real, not only engagement, awareness, and usage is only going to take 2 to 3. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay. So we look at voice kind of as the gateway to the smart home, but it's the key to frictionless daily living, right? Back to what I'm saying about a 28-hour day. At the end of the day, I want to say, I need an Uber, tell my girlfriend I'll be late, order me a pizza. All of those things are order me a book on Amazon, just frictionless daily living. I'm having a conversation, I'm making it happen, right? This thing stopped, next slide. Like that kind of, that's where we should be in the next time we're here next year, and that's kind of our job to create expectations and increase use cases. So we think that the data is obviously really, really valuable. We believe that voice data is more valuable than online and mobile data. At the end of the day, it's full intent-based. It's not retargeting me, chasing me around the web. It is literally me saying, I want something and I need it now. And can we use the AI machine learning to really understand some of that data? So what we've done as someone who's built a lot of voice skills is we built an analytics platform so that we could track all of our own first-party data, understand all different demographics, and really get a feel for what people are doing, what time of the day, what do they like. And so we feel pretty good at where we are with that. It's called the Fresh Beyond Voice. Obviously, it plugs in a lot of the AI, the ML. How do we take immersive? How do we connect to different endpoints? How do we leverage your existing systems? How do we manage? I mean, Ben was talking about using 8 APIs to really start a machine moving. That's what we're looking to do. So we want to collect data. We want to shorten your time to R&D in the voice cycle and really take all the work that we've done to help you provide answers faster. So on the use case side, one of our clients is UNICEF. We've launched an application called Kid Power. The idea is to empower kids to do good. And so what we're able to do is we have a series of games and challenges, and kids exercise. And when they finish exercising, they're able to calculate what that exercise equals. And then UNICEF sends food packets to poor people. So Ben's saving puppies. I'm just trying to feed some people. All right? It's all good. One of our in-house is called Christmas Trivia. So we like to think that we own holiday on Alexa. 7 of our skills have been featured by Amazon. Black History Month, Christmas Trivia, Mother's Day 2 days ago. So we feel really good about building audiences that are looking for holiday things. For our Christmas Trivia skill, which was really fascinating for us, is beyond Christmas, there's, you guessed it, lots of Christmas fans. So tracking them from 12/26, 1/26, 2/26, they're continuously engaging in our Christmas Trivia, which often reminds you that Christmas is not just a one-month holiday. This one is called Speak for Our Lives, which is basically around gun violence and what happened recently in Parkland. We wanted to give teenagers a way to kind of check in on what are our local gun laws, what is our congressman thinking, what is our senators thinking. So how could we, again, empower these teenagers to even have more data and be able at their fingertips support their thinking around the future of gun laws. And finally, one of my favorites is called Sneaker of the Day. Someone who usually has on sneakers. We want to be able to help sneakerheads figure out and find a sneaker. You know, the idea, we think in voices around the utility, which is why people like to use their devices for the weather and music. And so how do we provide daily, repeatable utilities to add that value that either enriches my life or makes it easier? So we look at it as time of the essence. At the end of the day, as I said, this is not a brand vehicle, so it's not like all of a sudden a brand's going to wake up and have an amazing use case. They need to figure out what makes sense for them and their customer strategy now. You know, as someone who's been in this for a little minute, this is moving way faster than mobile, way faster than online, because we have all the AI, we have all the machine learning, we have all the tools necessary to basically do any technology we want. It makes a lot of sense for brands and agencies to break their traditional idea of, you know, mapping something out and waiting for it to be perfect, but really just to jump in and execute, get some learnings, because these learnings are a little bit different than usual, and you have a lens into your customer. So you can be tying all of your marketing and all of your other stuff. You know, one of the things that we're looking to do is how do we take like an experiential budget and execution and then bring that back into the home through a utility on the Alexa, right? Those types of things you can do all day. So we're just telling you, time's running out. So the future of voice. AI is definitely resolving problems faster. The expectation for that personalization is getting higher. You know, brands are becoming assessed as people, and so what is your brand? What does that look like? And how does that relationship kind of dig into my daily life? And finally, the data matters. Nothing's moving faster. Digital assistants are definitely having a lot of influence on consumers. We know that narrative design matters when we're developing these things. We can definitely, you know, move you through a stage of consideration into your buying cycle by leveraging voice. And look, the touchscreen was really the last big shift, but we know that speech and AI, that's what matters now. Thanks.
All right, great. Thanks, Doug. So next up is Adam. I can't say your last name.
Wogksch.
Yes, thank you. Group Technology Director, Organic. Please go ahead and take it away.
Thanks. I'm Adam Wogksch. I'm Executive Tech Director at Organic. For those of you that don't know, Organic's a creative digital agency that has been around for a very long time, since 1993, actually. But as you can see, that doesn't say Organic. That's because I'm actually going to be talking about Synthetic, which is Organic's approach to this new emerging market. So Synthetic is a subdivision within Organic that is focused solely on cognitive technology and exactly what we can do with it. So there we go. Okay. So we took a look at the kind of the landscape with what people are doing in marketing today with AI and machine learning, and we noticed a couple things. This all goes under the umbrella of being underutilized right now. There's a lot of one-off tactics. A lot of people are doing things very specific to a campaign. They don't really have legs outside of that. A lot of conceptual understanding where they're talking about we can do this, we could do that, without actually showing any tangible executions. As well as perfecting media. It worked great for media. You can target really well. You can do dynamic content. But we're not in the media space. We're in the experience space. And so we saw a need where we could really form our own niche, and we could use our insights from our previous campaigns and executions. We could generate ideas from that, and then we could create new interactions for consumers based on that. And so we created Synthetic, which does intersect with organic and works with our current clients, but also largely works on its own. And we have our own process that we're doing in order to create new ideas that I'm going to go into in a little bit. So the priorities of Synthetic right now are, obviously, voice is huge. We want to really know how to kind of crack that nut, how to get people to really use it at a brand level and be able to interact with the brand in the brand voice. Computer vision e-com is a little specific, and that's because we are currently doing a demo right now where we're trying to change the way people are shopping online. Not so much in the way Amazon's doing it with matching one-to-one. You upload a suit, I give you a suit, more with some of the subjectivity along with what you're actually looking for. Automated machine learning curation. So by that we mean, can we create dynamic content? Can we send it to the right people before it goes out to the audience? And what kind of efficiencies can we get there? So our process is, we are actually not working from a direct client need. We thought that it would be better if we just started generating experiments on our own to see what we could and couldn't do and what worked and didn't work. So the first thing that we do is we generate an experiment based off of a hypothesis. Would someone like to do this? Let's find out. And then we actually build a prototype of it. We work in 2-week sprints, so we try to do a prototype every 2 weeks. If it's going to be a longer one, we break it into smaller pieces so that we can get something out there that we can then present to the internal client teams. Is this something your client would use? Is this something that they've been asking about? Is this something that would solve one of their problems? If they could use it, great. Let's polish it up and pitch it to them immediately and see if they're interested in it. If not, well, let's evolve it and iterate on it. We'll put it in the backlog, we'll work on something else, or we'll just try this again and try doing something different to see if it's a little more useful. So I wanted to go into a example of one of these experiments that's not exactly the most practical, to be honest, but it is, there are elements of it that do evolve into practicality. And this also means that there's another theme for today other than marketing AI. It's Trump. And so we did create a service called Trump Master Flex, where we are listening for Trump's tweets, and we are matching each one of them to a specific song that he may or may not have been listening to at the time of writing the tweet. And so I'll just walk you through a little bit of how that works. So the first thing is Trump tweets. We take that tweet in and we ingest it and we store it. And then we run that tweet through 2 layers of natural language processing. So we're looking for concepts, we're looking for sentiment. We're trying to find alterations on different ways that he could have said something and exactly what he was meaning behind it. And then we're taking that and we're trying to find a song that matches on Spotify. So we're doing that by also running those concepts that we're getting through a lyric database to see if we can get information about the song itself before we even look for it, as well as more basic things like matching an artist and a title to what he was saying. And then we release the song for a moderation cue. So sometimes he is saying things like, I'm sorry for the passing of so-and-so, and so we don't want to be completely heartless and match that to a song. So we do have a human in the loop, which is still important at this stage with where we are with cognitive tech. And so we thought that we definitely wanted to add that in here. And then the song is automatically added to the Trump Master Flex Twitter account, where it is sent out as a reply to his actual tweet, so it shows up in his feed. And so here's an example of one of the ones that we matched. So our border laws are very weak, while those of Mexico and Canada are very strong. Congress must change these Obama era and other laws now. The Democrats stand in our way. They want people to pour into our country unchecked. Crime. We will be taking strong action today. So that matched to I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. Now, you could argue that that song would match to the majority of his tweets, but I swear there was a process behind this. So what we're doing with them afterwards is we're making a weekly playlist out of all of the songs that we matched to his tweets, and we're taking a notable quote from what he said that week as the name of the playlist, creating an album cover, and then we're putting the songs onto our Spotify account, also called Trump Master Flex. And so, again, like I said, not exactly the most practical experiment, but what we get from this is we get sentiment analysis. We get concepts from a social media feed that we could apply to anything. It could be a person, it could be a brand. We get a moderation queue that is dynamically creating a flag of should this go out, should this not go out. That is something that we could also use. So when we do these experiments, we're not directly trying to make the experiment itself be the idea that we're pitching in, more that we can take elements of it and see what worked, what didn't work, what can we make better, and what could we use with other things. So we've had a little bit of success with having some ad marketing trade and tech press written about us, as well as being able to be on the IBM Watson Advisory Council. We're one of the only non-media agency partners on that. And we do work with them as well as with Amazon and a couple other partners to really collaborate and see where we can take this. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks everyone. So I'm moderating, but I'm sitting up here. I'm gonna ask a few questions here from the floor. First, to all of you. So I saw a lot of experiments up there, a lot of experimental stuff that you guys are working on, which is a lot of it very, very cool. I'm wondering, you know, if a client, so when you're talking to your clients and they come to you and they say they want to do something involving AI, or, you know, because it's like the buzzword or whatever, what is your role then to sort of set their expectations for what's possible, if you know what I mean?
I'm holding the mic, so I'll start.
Okay, oh, by the way, you all have mics to your right.
Oh.
To your right. There you go.
So in our end, we try to focus exactly what they're trying to do. Is it something where they really just want to attach AI to something so that they can prove that they did? Or are they trying to actually improve a customer experience? And if it's the latter, and it should be, then we try to guide them down the right path. Okay, what channel do you want to talk to them in? Are you trying to do something for voice? Are you trying to do something for web? Are you trying to do something in person? If so, and hopefully all three, then it's about joining that experience together. And really, it's more just about mapping the customer journey than it is the technology itself. The technology is an enabler. It's not the idea itself.
Well, were you here before when I can't remember who asked this question from the audience, but they said something along the lines of, you know, if I want to host a dinner party, you know, I want AI to go out and just grab everything that I need, you know, beer and food and all that stuff, without me really having to lift a finger or do anything. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is do they ever come at you with like these big ideas that are not quite possible yet?
Always.
Okay. And what do you do? What do you do with that?
I mean, from my perspective, we start with asking, you know, what are we solving? Like, what business problems are we solving? Because I think AI is this blanket, like, you know, how can you use AI for a brand it's a massive thing. And a lot of times you'll use AI to solve problems that don't exist. So why are you solving a business problem that doesn't exist? So focus first on the problems that do exist, and then how AI potentially could move the needle there, and then you actually make it a lot smaller. And even the focus of, you know, what you could get for dinner to help with the dinner party, that's solving a problem. It's creating something that fills a need or makes it more efficient, but you need to solve business problems, and then AI can actually be a great way to do that.
And I think it's important to show them things that have actually been done, because we shoot ourselves in the foot by showing them proofs of concept. So a lot of the work that we showed, I mean, those things have been in market for 2-3 years. And to be able to say that we've done this, we've seen what works, we've seen what doesn't work, and we've learned in the real world is important, because otherwise they're going to see these flashy, cool things, and they just go towards that. So you start them with what has worked in the past, and then go to what's the real objective, what are you trying to do? And I think that the challenge for a marketer today is to realize, I think mobile was the first thing that really got us to this point, that you have to think in a more product mentality. And so if you're just trying to do something flashy for a campaign to attach AI to it, you may get a little bit of pop from a PR perspective, but you're not going to do anything meaningful for your business. The same way, if you just start something and spend 3 months on it and then drop it, you won't make any progress in AI. You have to think in terms of 12, 18, probably 24 months before you're going to get something that's actually meaningful.
So is it more important to show them something that works, and does it not necessarily have to include AI, right? I mean, because there's not a whole lot of examples out there, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think there's some good ones, though. I think there's a lot that you can use to point to as something that there are concepts in that they could take. So in your example of machine vision, right, you can show what that means, that we can recognize an object, and then concurrently apply data to something that a consumer would want to use on a daily basis. I think that's a really interesting example. But I also think that they have to understand, in more real-world examples, the challenges that it takes inside an organization. So can you get that data? Is your legal department going to be okay with you giving that to a third party who's going to be then crunching all of that data? There are lots of hoops that you have to jump through to actually get something like that into market.
Yeah, I think that point, you can't be precious about the process, right? So this is a process right now that we're all trying to shape and form, and it's not a tried and true production process like getting a TV spot on the air. So if you're precious about that and you expect it to go one specific direction, I don't think AI is necessarily the right thing for you to experiment with. You have to be very open-minded. It's a fluid process. I think every time I've ever done something with AI for a marketer, we had to pivot at least once in the tools or the technology that we were going to utilize because we weren't getting the results that we wanted or expected. So I think if you're open, you kind of can point to some of the tools and technology that's how we start. But it's then a very communicative, open process of where you start and where you go, and you need to give it time to breathe.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of, I guess, bigger clients versus smaller clients, but is there certain like verticals that this is better suited for right now, like in terms of what you can practically do today with AI? I don't know, like automotive or CPG.
We don't think, we think voices can work in a lot of different verticals. I think it's only been tried in a couple, but we already know, like I said, we have stuff in 18 categories. So that's why we're attacking nonprofits, we're attacking brand stuff, we're attacking airline, we're attacking CPG. Like all of those things are totally viable because as a consumer, I'm interacting with all that stuff. I think what those guys are saying, can you get organizational buy-in is really the key, as well as, I think definitely what he's saying, like, can you really, really understand that this isn't just gonna happen with, like, making a TV ad? Like, get in market, take some lumps, figure and learn, optimize, and then continue on a 12 to 18 month curve. And I think that's a bigger problem that, brands don't wanna deal with because they either wanna have a quick hit or you've got all this organizational stuff going on that just slows down how we can take what we have now and create something that is consistently learning and getting smarter.
I also think there's an opportunity to ask that question a different way. Because, yes, AI is going to be relevant for any brand, but AI is actually an umbrella term for multiple technologies.
Right.
Machine vision, natural language processing, robotics, those types of things. So if you say AI, that is so broad that you really can't define that. As a brand, you've got to figure out which of those elements under AI is going to be most useful for you. And I think just the understanding of that is the first step to determine if it is right for you at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that as far as internal verticals go, it kind of crosses not just the marketing department, but also the IT department, especially if we want access to their data in order to be able to create a machine learning model that can do something for them. So a lot of the times we have to break the problem down into, here's what it can do today. After we get data, here's what it can do. And then after we have this specific execution running and gets its own data, then we can do this.
Mm-hmm. Are there any, and speaking of these, verticals inside of AI or whatever, are there any, particularly big breakthroughs that are like on the horizon right now? I don't know, image recognition, is that like getting better? Is there anything you can inform the audience with that you're really excited about right now, other than voice?
Image recognition is, I think whether it's a breakthrough or not, I just think it's more tried and true. It's working with a better accuracy. Like natural language is kind of the holy grail that we're all after, and it's I think if you're trying to focus your attention there, you just have to be more open-minded with the walk that we all have to go through. So the evolution of bots, the march towards general artificial intelligence, and like where natural language still has to come. So if you're trying to get into market quicker and use tools and technology that are on the shelf, computer vision or visual tools right now are, I think, where you should go, because you can apply them a lot quicker and go to market quicker. If you want a longer walk and potentially more breakthrough technology, whether it's your own IP or it benefits a different part of your brand, natural language is a great place to go. But yeah, just be ready for the walk to come.
I think one specific thing that I'm excited for is synthetic voice, because going along the whole voice technology taking off and people being able to use it, one huge limitation right now is every platform's robotic responses. It makes dynamic content very specific to the device that was created versus it being truly in your brand voice.
Okay. I think that this is the year we're going to see a democratization of AI, particularly in areas like machine learning, where there are so many platforms out there that in the past you had to have a massive data science team who's going to structure all these algorithms. And now you've got these platforms as a service that for pennies you can actually spin up entire models. And what we're doing is actually having them all compete against each other. So we'll feed the same data set into 5 or 6 different systems and let that duke it out, and then do it again and do it again. And in the past, that would have cost us hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to do that. We built a model for, we built a lot of loyalty programs. So we built loyalty programs for 7-Eleven and Pizza Hut. And what we're doing now is we actually have simulated loyalty programs where we can actually take data based on what we've seen in the past, apply transactional data for a brand, and run it through systems over and over and over, and actually predict what would happen if we implemented a loyalty program. I mean, that kind of stuff wouldn't have been possible, and now it's just kind of standard run rate type stuff. We're going to continue to see that across robotics, across machine vision, across natural language processing. I think machine learning is probably where we're seeing the most impact right now.
Yeah, and customer expectations is a really, really good thing to bring up. I'm wondering about, Doug, specifically about what, working with voice, what you're learning from, the Gen Zs that are using this stuff. Probably more. I mean, is it fair to say that they're using it more than older generations?
No.
It's not?
No,
okay,
no,
all right. Tell us.
All.
Why is your mic not working? I'm sorry about that.
I don't know. It's crazy. No, not at all. Because what's really interesting, if you think about it, voice is a 3 to 83 phenomenon, right? Anyone here who's a parent knows if you have a kid right now that's like 12 and under, you're so excited to have Alexa in the house on one hand, you're disturbed on the other hand because they could buy whatever, but you have another individual in the home that is there. If I'm 70 to 85, I'm pretty excited because I don't know what time it is. I can't see over there. Order me an Uber. So you have something that's working really well on both opposite ends of the spectrum. When you look at it like from a 60 to 20 kind of zone, or even like a 15 to 25 zone, those zones are overlapping demographically just on how people, if I'm 15 years old, you guys in this whole texting thing, that's so old school, I want nothing to do with that. I already know that I basically want to talk and something happens. So my mindset as a 16-year-old right now is frictionless living is on. My mindset as a 25 to 50-year-old is like, well, I'm not quite sure what to do, but I know I can ask you for the weather every morning. I know I can ask you for the news every morning. You know what I mean? Like, I'm comfortable asking for specific things. So we know that voice literally it's spanning, like I said, 2 to 83 all day.
Okay. Anyone have anything to add to that, or should I go to questions with the audience? I think we'll
say go to the
see
audience.
what you folks have for these people up here. Right here, Chuck. Please remind us who you are, where you work, what you do.
Chuck Martin with the AI and IoT Daily. I have a question for Chris. Have you given any thought, or do you think Verizon is going to say, instead of, or anyone who might be a potential advertiser, instead of giving us this great consumer information, tell us when all the cars are going to be stopped at the bridges so we can send them text messages directed?
I mean, Chuck, it's a great point. You could come on the road with us when we do it. No, look, I think it's great. We actually, that's where it sort of started, was a targeting method for a museum where they wanted to kind of feed advertisements to people waiting for the bridge, or feed a game to people waiting for the bridge, so that they had more of an entertaining way to kind of pass that time. So I do think the conversation could come up about targeting and about kind of making that experience, more pointed. But I don't know. My hope is the long game is for less people to be stopped. right? So in that sense, it's like, no, it's not going to be about positional targeting. It's going to be maybe about like, what was the service or the advertiser that helped save you that time, creating that type of affinity and kind of connection versus getting you another ad in space. But I like it. I definitely like it as a tool.
I've got a bridge. I got a bridge near my house. I'd like you to do this for it. That'd be great.
Do you have a balcony overlooking that bridge?
No, I do not. I do not. I wish I did. Well, I'm hung up on this idea of expectations. I'd like to ask what your expectations are, you on the panel, for your technology partners that you work with in terms of what they can do for you with AI, ML, and the like.
I mean, it's all going to be, we're going to have open APIs, right, that allow data to flow both ways. A lot of times today, partners will say they have open APIs, but that means they can ingest data. It doesn't mean that you can take data out of it and action on it very quickly. So I'd say that that's the number one thing. Obviously, data security is what everyone's talking about right now. So if we're going to give you massive data sets, you better be in a place to assure me that that's not going to go somewhere else. So I think that those two things. And then at the end of the day, partners need to come with more than just a technology. They need to come with an understanding of how that technology can be used in a specific situation for a client. So if it's just on the client or the agency to always come up with the way that that platform should be used, you're not going to get as far as you could. So specific cases by industry showing how we've seen this technology be applied in this way gets uptake much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question definitely has multiple pieces to it, but we have so much ad technology that's being created in the AI space, right? And those are tools that we should understand as advertisers how to leverage very quickly when they're applicable, how to kind of get a brand to understand, okay, that's something that will work for you or not. But at the same time, there's the other kind of entities from a technology standpoint, whether we hire them or we bring people in, you know, a diverse skill set. You've played with a lot of stuff that's open source. You've created skills and actions. You've used TensorFlow. You've tried Watson. You know, X, Y, and Z. Like, really, it's I think it's a diversity and understanding like how to tinker and experiment and prototype. And at the same time, like really getting a sense of the ad tech that's out there that you could pull the trigger on like this, because it's going to be these two things that are constantly moving. And as stuff is experimented and prototyped, it could become new ad technology. But you can't focus just one or the other, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, our expectations obviously are, you know, our partners are Amazon and Google and Microsoft at a high level, and we operate on probably 5 to 10 beta teams within those 3 companies. And so we feel that we have a lens of what they're thinking of sorts 3 to 6 months ahead of everyone else. And so our expectations are consistently that they're going to either A, give us a lane to create, strategize, and make cool stuff, but they're also ideally going to have data security because that is coming fast, and that's going to be a really big problem. And are they able to continue as this thing is speeding up? It's like, you know, Ben is saying, the stuff that would have taken, you know, months or millions of dollars could now be done, you know, in an hour. So as we can see and chart how the smarter the devices get, week over week, month over month, are we able to keep up and provide that value to them that then they're providing back to the user? Like a little weird example, so when we look at Alexa's contextual awareness, we help build that out because we have so many skills live, right? If you think 6 months ago, you'd be like, Alexa, do you have a Brazilian food recipe? She'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? And then all of a sudden you'd say, do you have a Brazilian food recipe? She's like, well, maybe I don't, but I have a recipe maker by Campbell's, right? So she was able to start pushing you around to different stuff. Now she basically says like, yeah, I got one for you, boom. And she kicks right in. So we know that as that's been happening over the last 6 months, not only are we allowing that contextual awareness for her to be built that she doesn't have, that, you know, Google does have, but that she's definitely learning, and the process for the consumer is a lot better as long as they're aware of how smart it's getting every week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead, Adam. I have another question.
Okay, sure. So I think being a true partner is huge. We need them to not only come to us with the technology, but also be able to come with ideas on architecture. How can this work at scale? What kind of costs are we looking at so that we can budget this appropriately? if we have an idea that we're coming to you with, how do we make it better? How do we take it to the next level? So it's not just you're doing this one service for us. We want you to do several services for us. Work with us.
Okay, so I realize I'm sitting here with my back to the audience. I don't realize if there's any other questions for this group. Ask one more? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Rob. I work at MediaCom. And so we're obviously focusing a lot on marketing and brand and so on and so forth, but a couple of comments have kind of got me thinking in a different direction. One around, your application to traffic, which obviously has, work with councils and sort of governmental involvement in some respects. And your comment about the elderly, Doug, and how they use it differently, it kind of got me thinking about elderly care and the different use cases there. So my question is, do you see governmental programs as a potential large source of future initiatives in this space?
Yeah, go. You're the man. You go.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, I think that, depending on what vertical you're going after and who you're benefiting, right? If we're talking about these instances where we're benefiting a group of people from a smart city standpoint, and that group of people is an elderly group of people, I would like to think that there are health benefits and theoretically, whether it's MPOs or it's government agencies that are going to help kind of, put funding onto it to take it to the next level, right? You can kind of establish a base level for, private funds, but obviously having, buy-in from a city, you're able to go bigger. I mean, my example is prime example. Like if we had buy-in from the Coast Guard or buy-in from organizations, and these people are in the mix, I would be able to get those dedicated cameras, redundancy. I'd be able to take this product to a more stable level, and that's, I think, the benefit of having these agencies involved. Different application, but yeah, I would love to think certainly for elderly or people with certain needs, special needs, like AI is a great way to potentially unlock new abilities or make life more comfortable, more efficient, and easier. So yeah, like I'd love to just for people to kind of get on board and be open again to work together to benefit all of us.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we're out of time. Ben, Chris, Doug, Adam, thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you guys.